We are continuing the process of expanding our pool deck. The concrete around our pool is very narrow, so there's no room for lounge chairs. I have no clue why they designed pools like this in the 80s and 90s. What's the point of having a pool if you don't have any way to relax next to it? In our last two videos, we showed you how we poured 8 concrete slabs and laid artificial turf between them. We wanted to do something different on the other side of the pool, so we are building a huge wooden deck. It will create enough space for us to have a picnic table and 4 lounge chairs. This video begins after the main frame was already screwed together. I'll go over it briefly in a couple minutes, and then when I start on the second half of the deck, you'll see this process in full. The final deck will be an L shape, and it'll be around 340 square feet. Please take a quick second to like this video and subscribe to our channel so that you will get updates anytime we release new content. This is a 16 feet by 8 feet foundation for this deck. In the corners we've got 4x4 posts buried 2 feet deep. And then there's 3 posts spaced out evenly here. These are not 2 feet deep. They're just 4x4s with about a 6-inch hole with some crushed rock as a base. Other corner, 2 feet deep. We're gonna pour concrete in those. Small post, just a few inches deep. Corner. And then there's 5 2x6s running the length, 16 inches on center. So every 16 inches is a 2x6. I use 3-inch exterior deck screws to attach these end boards, these 8-foot end boards, to the ends of the 16-foot 2x6s here. So there's 1, 2. These are they're called spack screws or star bits, and they just go in smooth as butter. So I spend the extra money on them. And then in the corners, I use a little angle bracket, and these are also spack screws. I think they're 1.5-inch exterior. And I would have liked to butt this up into that corner to screw into this 4x4 from both sides, but this bracket was there, so I just attached it to this one and put another corner bracket there. These ones in the middle, I didn't bother putting brackets on them. They're just kind of supports, and I just ran 2 more of those 3-inch screws there. Same for that one and that one, and once again on the end, the corner brackets. And then these U-shaped brackets here, which hold this. It wraps all the way under. It looks like a U. And I went in with the 1.5-inch exterior screws there, and same here and there. And then on this side of it, I just put a long 3-inch screw just to center it before I screwed the bracket in place. For these 16-foot boards that run the length of this deck, I wanted to support them about every 4 feet. I have one of these 12-inch by 12-inch pavers. So first, I just dig out a little hole, a little square hole, and probably about 2 inches deep, and then add some paver base, compact it with a tamper, put a little sand to level the paver, and then that goes right under that board like that. And you just keep laying this board down and making sure that it's fully seated down in the bracket there at the end, as well as on the other end. And as long as it's fully seated and touching firmly on top of this paver, you know you're good. If it's not fully seated in the bracket at the end and it's popped up a little bit, then you know that you need to remove a little bit of paver base and sand and get this lowered a little bit until you get it level. It's kind of trial and error at first. The first couple are kind of a pain, and then once you get going, it's not a big deal at all. So 3 of those every 4 feet on the 16-foot board. Looks like that. Surprisingly, that worked first time. I don't even need to level it anymore. So we're gonna put a 3rd one right there. So this is the deck foundation after I've installed all of the pavers, the supports. And then just to keep these boards here from warping this way, I went ahead and put these 2x6, kind of staggered them, these 2x6 boards all the way down. I also used 3-inch deck screws. There's 1, 2, as well as on the other side. 1, 2. That's why I staggered them, just so it made it super easy to put those screws in. The only posts that I'm going to pour concrete in are the posts that are on the corners. So I'm going to pour probably a half a bag of quickset concrete into each of those corner posts. So all 4 corners. These posts here are kind of just for support, and I'm not going to end up pouring any concrete in those. I'm just using half a bag of this fast setting concrete mix. I think 1/2 a bag is plenty for each post. So we'll add a little water to the hole first. Maybe like 1/3 of the way full. I got a half a bag left in here. I'll dump the rest of that in. ground all around the sides of the post. And we're gonna need to add some more water. You really can't mess this up, even if you add too much water. Not looking for perfection here, just want to get these posts cemented into the ground, so if there was a big storm or something, this deck will not be lifting up out of the ground. All right, that's it. There's a close-up shot for you after I've finished putting that half bag of concrete and mixed in the water. That's what it looks like. One of the things I've always hated about decks I've built in the past is screwing down the deck boards through the top surface. So you've got, you know, multiple screws for each deck board that you see on the top, and that just drives my OCD crazy. And so I just found this product. Not sure how long it's been around, but it's called Camo Deck Pack, and this comes with enough screws to do 250 square feet of deck. I have about 330 square feet that I'll be doing, so I'm gonna need to order another pack of screws. But this one here, this Camo Deck Pack 875, it comes with 875 screws, the camo tool, as well as 2 drill bits. So here's what the tool looks like. And then it comes with all the screws, 2 of these star bits. Here's what a screw looks like. So the star bit goes in just like that. Kind of an interesting looking screw. It sorry, it's trying to focus. It's got like a dull tip here, and it kind of like augers out all of the wood material, which helps kind of prevent your board splitting and stuff like that. But with these screws, you take your tool, you squeeze this handle, and it kind of spreads these spacers apart. It goes over top of the deck boards, and then you let go and it kind of clamps down on the deck board, and then you take your driver bit and your drill and you screw these at an angle on your the front of the board and the back of the board in each joist. So you'll never see those ugly screws on the top because they go at an angle. And I think these will also kind of prevent cupping of the boards. So this is the first time I'll be using this. Pretty stoked about it. I think it's gonna work really, really well. This whole pack was $110 at Home Depot. And I was pricing out just regular deck screws, which screws are just expensive in general, and it really wasn't that much more expensive to go this route. And it also came with the tool, which if you buy this separate, this is like 50 bucks. So pretty good deal in my opinion. I'll just need to buy one more pack of screws, probably like 300 or so screws. I should have enough for this project. All right, I went ahead and put this first deck board on with the camo tool. I just wanted to do one before I recorded it, just to make sure I knew what I was doing. Worked great. I'm gonna, rather than starting on the end, I think I'm gonna put the first one in over here. Just lift that lever up, center it on your joist, and these spacers here are 1/16 of an inch, so it puts exactly a 1/16 of an inch between all your boards, but you want a little bit of space in between each one. Okay, take your screw, put it in the hole, grab your drill, just hold down on the tool and kind of push towards this other board here. One. The other screw in. Hold down on the tool and just drive it in full speed. The bit here will bottom out right here, right up against that surface there. So you really don't have to go a specific depth. It'll bottom out and then you're done. It's simple. Here we go. Okay, we're cutting strips of weed barrier and then just stapling it along all the edges of the joists here. That way in the future we won't have weeds growing up through the deck. And then I'm also running lights. Got these on Amazon, little 1-inch LED lights. I'll link them in the description. Let me see if I can pull one of these out. So I just drilled a 1-inch hole with a wood bit, and they just pop right down in, and then I've got the electrical running through the bottom, and then they all just daisy chain together. So sometimes you end up with a warped deck board, and you want to try to keep these gaps, you know, as minimal as possible, about 1/16 of an inch, but sometimes the board's just warped. So before I put this shade cloth down, I figured we'd just take a shovel or something and push it in the ground and leverage the board backwards, but because of the shade cloth, we don't want to put holes in it. So we decided to do this. I just took a screw and drove in just a block of wood, and then you can put a crowbar behind it like that, and then push forward and get the leverage you need to pull that board in while you screw it in. Rain. Gonna have to take a break for today. When you're doing the ends of the boards, you don't want to center the tool on the joist. You want to put it closer to the inside edge of this board. So I'm probably going like a 1/2 inch before the edge of this side. That way, because if you go in the middle or too close to the end of this board, you might split it out here when you put the screws in. So let's stay about right there. So you can see how close to that inside edge I stayed. Try to stay away from the middle and this edge because you will split this out on the end here. So I showed you the trick with the crowbar earlier to help with the warped boards. I ran into some boards that were really stubborn and had to come up with another method. I'm just going to show you that method, and it definitely works a lot better for boards that are warped pretty bad. So here we go. You're gonna need a pretty large C-clamp, adjustable like that. A block of wood. I got a 3-inch screw in there. And I want to take this block of wood, screw it in between two of these deck boards. I'm gonna go right here and into the joist below it. Take your C-clamp, extend it out, place it right there. Start tightening it up, and you'll see it is super easy to close that gap. Closed all the way down now. So now I can go down and continue on with my camo tool. You'll notice that this board here I had pre-drilled and installed the lights already, and it's just kind of been where I want it because between each light is about 5.5 feet all the way around. I just have them evenly spaced, and so you have to drill the hole and then run the wires out the bottom and then have that board ready to go, because these boards are going to be going over top of the wires. So you can't, if you have a deck that is like this, it's flush with the ground, you have no way to get under it once you're done, it's kind of the way you just have to do it. Obviously if it's 1 or 2 feet off the ground, you can probably get underneath it and run the wires that way, but the way I'm doing it, I have to run the wires as I go. So I hope that makes sense. So, like I was saying before, I still have probably about, I don't know, 7 or 8 boards until I get to my next light, which is 5.5 feet away from that light. So what I have to do is pick the board that I'm going to use at that point, drill the holes on either end, put the lights in, connect the wires underneath, and then I can start laying my boards. And whenever I get to this last one, I can just move it over to wherever it needs to be. It's got to be, doesn't have to be exactly 5.5 feet, but just you know, close enough. So, drill these holes. To make extensions to these lights because the wires that came with it weren't very long, so I bought this 14 gauge landscape wire and spliced it into these. I'll make another video that shows how to do that because that'll probably be about a 15-minute video, so I'll go ahead and do another one and link it in the description. This male end plugs into this female end here. Just screws down. I'm just using these coax staples. Like that, just to hold the wires up against the edges of the joists, and also keeps those connectors out of any standing water or weather. So like this connector here is where I'll put the staple, just to hold it up off the bottom of the ground. Okay. This end, we've got the female end going into the male end. This light here. Also, I just realized I said this was 14 gauge. It is 18 gauge. And the wire that goes to the actual light is 22 gauge. So you could go with 22 if you wanted, but I didn't know how long my run was going to be, so I figured I should upsize the wire. Here is where we are at so far with this deck. Got the LED lights every 5.5 feet. So the goal is to extend this deck this way and then over this way over all that rock. So it'll go like that. We're gonna tie into the deck from here and just keep going this way and over that way. Okay, so we're starting part 2 of this project. We're going to continue building out this deck here. And I had a deck, like a 4x4 deck here for my shower, and ended up taking that out just because I'm going to go ahead and bring this deck all the way over and then this way. It's going to be like an L-shaped deck. And I just didn't want to try and make the old shower deck blend with this new deck. So I think it's just gonna look best just to redo all that. I'm gonna leave those 4x4s in there since they're cemented in and try and use them as support posts. From here to the wall is about 15 feet. And I'm gonna go ahead and keep the deck off the wall probably 2 or 3 inches. And so I bought 16-foot boards and I'm gonna cut those down. My cut is going to be right at 14 feet 9 inches is where I've measured. And then I'll be fastening that 2x6 to this 2x6, which this is an 8-footer. So I'll drive the screws in this way into my 2x6 going that way. I'll put one down at the other end, and then I'll fasten that whole piece to this 2x6 there. You put some screws in all the way down. It's actually kind of warped, but that should work its way out as I screw it in. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those boards cut. To fasten these 2x6s together, I'm using these 3.5-inch exterior deck screws by Spax. They're pretty heavy duty screws. They've got the star bits. It actually comes with a bit in the box. These are great screws. For a box of 59, it's I think $14. So I've got that flush there, just with one screw for now. Put some more screws in later. But it kind of rises up as it goes this way, which tells me my the ground here is a little bit higher, and I'm gonna need to dig some of that grass and dirt out there to where this joist is flush all the way down with the top of this other one here. Kind of see the difference here. There it is. Now we're flush. Put a few more of these in, and I'll actually go where the joists are, so that if it does come out the end a little bit, it actually goes into those joists. This is how our structure is looking so far. I've got the level on it, and it is almost perfectly level. I'm gonna have to raise up that left side just a hair. You can see that. So this side here is gonna have to come up probably 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch, and it'll be level. And then I'll need to level the other side. I might need to dig out a little bit of that dirt there. And then I'll get my next 2x6 cut for right there. I'm gonna use an 8-footer. Over here, I just used the full length 8-footer because these were butting up to it this way. On this end, I'm gonna have to cut off 3 inches from the 8-footer because I'm actually gonna go inside with it so I can screw in from here. So we'll take an 8-footer and cut off 3 inches. And then also right here where my shower is, I think it's going to hit that. So I'm probably gonna have to notch out that 2x6 a little bit to get it to fit underneath this shower here. All right, we're going 7 feet 9 inches on this board. All right, so I've got the board cut for the back here, and it's gonna work out nice because I have a couple posts that are already cemented in, so I'll use those as mounting points and put some angle brackets in there, and then I'll screw in from this side. It looks like I am gonna possibly have to notch out right there for the shower. Cut the notch out for the shower, it's right here. I'm gonna use this to get it started, and then I'll finish with the handsaw. how it looks after the notch is cut out. It's a perfect fit. Alright, I used a clamp to clamp that backboard to this 4x4 post so where it's flush with this 2x6 here, and then I'll drive these screws in from this way. Install one of these ankle brackets here. Those 1.5-inch screws didn't bite enough, so I'm going to throw in a longer 3-inch screw here. Also, this board here being longer is not going to matter because the deck boards are going to cover up all that. Same thing here. I've got my level, and so I'm just keeping an eye on the level and raising up on this board until it's perfectly level, which is right there. And I'll tighten this down. Another one of these brackets here. And then I'm just going to take two 3.5-inch screws and drive them in through the end of that board, just like we did on the other side. Put that clamp on to keep those two boards flush with each other on the top and bottom. Drive 2 screws in on this side and we're done. Got a lot done tonight. Basic frame is built. But I am out of daylight, so I will come back tomorrow and start where we left off here. See you then. I'm going to install these angle brackets in the corners to add extra support. I'll be using these 1.5-inch exterior deck screws. These are number 8s, SPACs. I'm going down 2 feet on these, so we're at about 21 inches, a little bit further. I bought this pressure treated 4x4 a couple weeks ago and it was sitting in the yard. It's crazy once it dries out how much the stuff warps. Look at that. Terrible. But I'm cutting this into 2-foot sections for the posts. So most of it's going to be buried underground. Shouldn't matter too much. So mark this off 2 feet. It's a little short, but I always put rock in the bottom of the hole just to help give the post a solid base to sit on. When it's drained, feel rock on the bottom of the hole. Just like crushed granite, it's like that. Driving a couple of those 3.5 inch deck screws. So I screwed into this 4x4 from this way. I can't obviously screw in from this way because of the wall here, but I put the angle bracket right there between this 2x6 and the 4x4. On the first portion of this deck, there's the 4 corner posts, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are all 2 feet deep with concrete. And because that post, you know, is right there, I don't see any reason to sink a post with concrete there. So I think what I'm gonna do is this one here, the far end is 2 feet deep with concrete. This here is 2 feet deep and it's got concrete in it as well. So I'm thinking I don't need one there, but I probably will put a support here and just probably put it down like 6 inches to a foot with no concrete, just to keep it from wobbling back and forth. And then I think I'm gonna sink one with concrete 2 feet deep here in the middle. That's the exact center of that 2x6. And I'll also do one in the center here of this 2x6 in concrete. So I'm just kind of figuring it out as I go along here. It just seems to make the most sense to me at this point. Not 2 feet yet, but I don't think I'm gonna go the full 2 feet on this one. I'm right next to my pool deck here, and I'm not sure exactly where all the plumbing goes, but I don't really want a chance running into any of that right now. Our post needs to be about 22, looks like 22.5 inches. Twenty-two and a half. That post is the halfway mark on that joist there. So I am going to put one more post in the middle between that point and that point right there. I'm not going to sink it 2 feet, put it in concrete and all that. It's just going to be slightly below ground level with some rock underneath, and it'll just be a support. So that's it, just about 6 to 8 inches. $23 inches. We're going to be using 8-foot deck boards, so you want this measurement from here to here to stay 8 feet all the way down. So we know it's 8 feet here because that's an 8-foot 2x6 there. I'm going to come in here in the middle. See that? 8 feet. Because these boards can bow out. So you just want to make sure it stays 8 feet all the way down. We have to measure for our joists. So we're going to do 16 inches on center. I'm just going to go from this side. Just every 16 inches put a mark. That's where all of our joists are going to go. And then also go on the other side and mark every 16 inches on that end too. The dirt here needs to be dug out a little bit so that this joist can lay level from end to end. You see how it's in the middle, there's a bunch of dirt and grass and stuff that's keeping it from staying level. The shower area we're boxing in. So we ran 16-foot joists this way. And then we ran a 2x6 from there to there, and these are, how long are these? 12 foot. They're 12-foot boards cut down to like 10 feet, I think it is. I went ahead and repurposed the original deck that I had for my shower here. It still fit between all the original 4x4s that I had in there, and I figured this was the best option. I didn't want to just throw away all this wood, and what this will do is it'll kind of give it like an inlaid look from the rest of the deck. Not 100% sure what I'm gonna do along the edges, but something to accent it. So we'll have our deck boards running this way. And when we get to here, we'll just cut them down from here to here and finish off the deck that way. So the shower will kind of be its own separate inlaid area. Also, as you can see, I put down landscape cloth before I put the shower deck back in place so that weeds and grass and stuff doesn't grow up through the slats of that. Still about 1.5 inches we got to come up. Getting close, about 1/2 inch more. They're not all this difficult, but this one's giving me a hard time. The ground level was a lot lower on this side. All right, we're almost touching, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of sand, and that should level it out and bring it up enough to where it's touching the bottom of that joist. All right, that's what you want. The joist is fully seated and the brackets on either end, and it's sitting right on top of that paver. So that makes for a really solid base. I'm fastening the joists into those U brackets with these 1.5 inch deck screws. Looks like this. There's 2 on each side. As you can see, we got a lot of rain, but just before that I got all these pavers installed as supports under the joists. And now I'm going to cut some sections of 2x6 and install them in between all the joists, just to keep all the joists in line so that I have the proper 8 foot of width all the way down. Here's one that I've cut. I'm just going to screw it in place. Right here. And I'll measure for this one all the way down, making sure that my measurement here to here is exactly 8 feet, so that my 8-foot deck boards are the perfect fit without having to cut them. For this one here, I centered it in the middle of these longer boards, but as I get down in here in these shorter ones, I'm going to just move over a little bit and keep it centered in the middle of those short ones. So that's why I'm going to offset them pretty far over, about right here. I'm not sure if you can tell in the video, but this board right here is slightly bowed, and so the piece of wood that I cut to go right here, I added a little bit of length to it so it'll push this out a little bit and make up for that bow and give us our 8 feet across. Right where we want to be, 8 feet. go ahead and pour the concrete for the post that I dug down 2 feet. I detailed this process in part 1 of this series, so go ahead and check the link in the description for part 1 and you can see how to do that process. Okay, I've poured the concrete for all these posts, as you can see, set up overnight. Also, if you're curious what this plumbing is, this was, I had to extend it from here out to here. It's a valve to add water to my swimming pool. So if you're wondering what that is what that valve does. The next thing we need to do is add all the weed barrier in all these sections, so that the grass and weeds don't grow up between the deck boards. And I detailed this on part 1 of this series, so I'm not gonna video this process, but that's what we're gonna be working on next. I have to test the lights as I go because I'm doing the electrical as I build this thing. So every single time I do a 5-foot section, I test the lights just to make sure they're all working. I'm running out of daylight here, but I'm kind of on a time crunch to finish this deck because we have a outdoor party coming up this weekend. So, but I just wanted to show you how I ended up boxing the shower in here. So these are 2x4s pressure treated, and I had to rip them down a little bit to get them level with the these 2x6s here. and I just kind of boxed the shower in. This last deck board here, I made sure that this edge here was inlaid about 1/4 of an inch there so that this hangs over just slightly. And then I put these 2x6 pieces in here, supports, screwed in through there and this side. So all I have left to do is just cut the deck boards for right there, and little pieces for here all the way down, and then probably one more piece that goes all the way down the back. And I'm probably gonna have to notch out for the shower there again.
Boo-boo!
Once you get up against the wall, the camo tool won't fit, so you have to manually put the screws in. So what I'm doing is just taking a small drill bit, drilling in at an angle like this. Take one of the camo screws and just drive it in slowly. That. And the 2x6 is somewhere in here. It doesn't go all the way to the back, so I'm just driving one straight down the top. So the only thing left to do is to just duplicate this whole process over here in this area of rock. That's it for this video. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments and I will do my best to respond as quickly as possible. Once I finish the final section of the deck, I will be sure to post a short on YouTube so you can see how it looks. Thanks for watching, and please do us a huge favor and give this video a thumbs up, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel. It will keep us motivated to continue posting new content.